Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for joining us tonight at the special edition of the Lighthouse Project hosted by the Miami Torah Center. Tonight's class is going to be in memory of Dvorah Fega Bat Shmuel. Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you everyone. This week we are learning Parashat Bechukotai. Outside of the land of Israel, we are holding we're reading this parasha in and of itself. Last week, the Parashat Bechukotai was learned in Eretz Yisrael. This week they're already ahead. They're already starting Bamidbar. We're still a week in advance for the next couple weeks. So that is why we're learning Parashat Bechukotai. Parashat Bechukotai starts with the following verse. I'll read you the verse, I'll translate it, we'll tell you what it's talking about, and Zera Shimshon picks up a nuance which person I've never picked up on, and the answer is absolutely fascinating. You guys are all in for a big treat tonight. Listen to the verse. The verse says, "Im bechukotai telechu." If you go in the ways and the laws of God, vet mitzvotai tishmoru, and you fulfill the commandments, va'asitem otam, and if you do them. So, if you do the chukot, if you go in the way of the Torah, if you do the mitzvot, you live by them. What does the Torah say? What does God say is going to happen? Venatati gishmechem be'itam. It's going to rain on time. Rain is the source of parnasa. If there's no rain, there's no food. There's no food, there's nothing. They say that one day, based on the rate that that the world population is consuming food and water, there will be one day a war for food and water in the world that we live in nowadays. Can you believe in the 21st century? It might be in the 22nd century, who knows? But at the rate that the world population is growing, and at the resources, how much they're being used and wasted, we might, chas v'shalom, unfortunately feel that once again. But Hashem says, if you go in the way of the Torah, if you fulfill His mitzvot, the rain will come in its time. The land will give off when it needs to. And the trees in the land will give the fruits that we need. And then all the more blessings. And then, as we know, it moves on to the curses. When we don't follow in the way of Hashem, when we don't fulfill the mitzvot, and what's going to happen, and all of the unfortunate scares and promises and all the doom that comes along with it. The Zera Shimshon asks a very nice question. He says, before we get to the Zera Shimshon, Rashi tells us one thing. What's the difference between the Bechukotai telechu and then the mitzvotai tishmoru? What does this mean? That there's chukot that you're going to go that way, and mitzvot that you're going to fulfill. So Rashi explains that the first part of Bechukotai telechu means learning Torah. When you learn Torah, A, and then B, vet mitzvotai tishmoru, and when you fulfill the mitzvot, then Hashem's going to do everything for you. So there's always two aspects in Judaism. There's the learning and there's the fulfilling. If you don't learn, then you're not going to have to fulfill. If you only learn and you don't fulfill, then the learning is not worth anything. It's always this combination. It's a fusion of learning and doing. This is always the way that we are supposed to live as Jews and as HaKadosh Baruch Hu intended for us. So that makes a lot of sense. If you learn the Torah, if you follow His mitzvot, then you'll be blessed. Hashem promises us something very special. Okay. Now the Zera Shimshon asks, if we look at this verse, it says, if you follow the way of the Torah, you learn Torah, and you fulfill the mitzvot, all the good. Let's go later on in the chapter. Still in chapter 26, verse 15, it says the opposite. Ve'im bechukotai timasu. And if you're disgusted and you don't learn Torah, you don't go in the way of Torah, Ve'im et mishpatai tig'al nafshechem, and you're repulsed lo alenu from the mitzvot, and then all the curses come along. So this is what this week's parasha does. It first tells us if you do the good, what's going to happen, and then if you do the bad, what's going to happen. But the Zera Shimshon makes an observation. It's a very interesting observation. This is in the richness of the vernacular of the verse itself. It says, if you go in the way of the Torah and you do the mitzvot, everything's good and blessed. But when it comes to the negative, it says, if you don't go in the way of the Torah, and if you don't do the mitzvot, you'll be cursed. What's the difference? The word im, the word if. When it comes to the positive and doing it, it says, if only by the Torah. It doesn't say by if you'll do the mitzvot. But when it says the negative, if you're not going to do them, it says, if you don't do the Torah, and if you don't do the mitzvot. The Zera Shimshon says, why is there a difference? Either have if once in both cases, or if twice in both cases. So to us, it seems like, is there a difference? Is there a difference? We'll see there's a big difference. And this difference is going to change our lives, change the way we see the world we live in, the way we cope with different struggles, as well as the power that learning Torah has that unfortunately many take for granted. Listen to the following. This is like key, very key. He starts off by quoting a midrash. I'll read to you the midrash. Midrash says as follows. Amar Rabbi Hanina bar Papai. The Rabbi Hanina, the son of Papai, said, Im shamartem et ha-Torah, hareni ma'ale alechem kilu asitem atzmechem. Rabbi Hanina says, if you observe Torah, you learn the Torah, Hashem comes to you and says, I'm going to reward you as if you created yourself. This is what the Midrash says.
Created the Torah?
No, that you created yourself. Oh. Yourself.
Right. If
I, Yaakov, learn Torah, Hashem says, oh, you know who created yourself? You created yourself. Zera Shimshon says, what type of reward is that? This is the question of the Yefet Toar, he quotes. What type of reward is that? I'm going to get the reward as if I created myself? Now let me ask you, who's it better to create you? Is it greater for you to create yourself, or greater for Hashem to create you? Hashem, the Almighty, the omnipresent, the unlimited, to create us is much better. What type of reward is that? And he says, you know what? Okay, you want to give me some reward? Make it as if I fulfill the Torah, I learn the Torah, as if I created someone else. That's rewarding. That, you know, it's in my merit, someone else is alive, someone else is created. Similar to the following, a person that saves another person's life. If one saves their fellow's life, and that's physically, but also spiritually, if you take someone off a bad track, you put him on a good track. You know what the Talmud in Masechet Sanhedrin says? It's as if you saved a whole world. Saving one person is like saving a whole world. So the Yefet Torah says, you know what? Tell me, if I fulfill the Torah and I learn the Torah, give me the reward as if I created someone else, as I saved someone else, but created myself. It's a very interesting way, and not making too much sense what type of reward we're actually being rewarded with just for learning Torah. This is the question that the Yefet Torah asks. Listen to how the Zera Shimshon answers this in his magnificent way. He says that when a person disregards their body, they neglect their health, they're the ones to blame. A person who decides to eat the way they want, decides to drink the way they want, to not care about their physical well-being, to maintain their health. You know when you're going to go to the doctor, you know when you're going to have your issues, you're skipping those doctor's appointments. Who's the one that's at blame? It's you. That's something you are self-inflicting upon yourself, and you're at blame. That's one level. The next is when an illness comes up and it's out of our control. What does HaKadosh Baruch Hu want from us in that situation? To do the best we can. To try our hardest. To try to stabilize whatever issue is. But at least we're not self-inflicting it, right? Now there's another level. And this is, the Zera Shimshon says what the Midrash is telling us. that a person, this is, hold on to your chairs, this is like fascinating. A person who makes themselves busy with learning Torah, specifically learning Torah, l'shem shamayim, for the sake of Hashem, for the sake of this is the book God gave me and told me to study. You know, sometimes there are parts which are interesting, they're fun, they're funny, they make sense, and there's some stuff which are hard to make sense of. Stuff which are not so practical. Doesn't matter. This whole book is what Hashem gave me. When a person learns Torah and they're busy with learning Torah, get ready, it protects the person from illness, from getting sick. It acts as a protective measure. And on another step he says a person who has a health complication and they learn Torah with ulterior motives, with the right intention, not because they want honor, not because they want to prove someone else wrong, not because they want to write a book and be famous. No. When they're doing it for the good reasons, even if they avoid any tending to their health that is needed, Hashem will take care of it for them. That's the power of Torah. But the Zera Shimshon says, how does that work? How does that make sense? Aren't we supposed to take care of ourselves? So what, I'm going to neglect my body for my soul? That's not the way it's supposed to be. Hashem created us in a physical world with a spiritual twist. We have our neshama, we have our soul inside our body, but we have the body that has to, it's a relationship. It's a tenant-landlord relationship. You know, they never really like each other, but they got to learn how to live with each other. That's the same thing, our neshama and our body. They're both pulling in complete opposite directions, but they have to find a means to mold it. So if that's the case, how does Hashem say, neglect? Don't take the medication, don't go to the doctor. How does that make sense? So listen to what the Zera Shimshon says. He says that a person who learns Torah with the pure intentions, l'shem shamayim, for the sake of God, for the sake of the Torah, for the sake of the learning of the Torah, that Hashem gave us the Torah, we're going to observe in 9 days from now, in 10 days from now, Simchat Torah, Matan Torah. Really, Shavuot is the Simchat Torah. So when we get the Torah, we're so happy that we have Torah, and we learn it, and we do everything we can. We stay up all night trying to learn it. That's what we do on Shavuot. When a person does that, they are fulfilling a commandment of V'nishmartem me'od lenafshotechem. You are guarding, being very cautious for yourself. Although that context seems like nafshotechem is your body, but really nafshotechem is your soul. When you tend to your soul, it's so important, the Zera Shimshon says, it's as if you tended to all other mitzvot. When you fulfill the mitzvah of v'nishmartem me'od lenafshotechem, that you're very careful and you're guarding your body, it's such a high caliber mitzvah, it's equal to as if you fulfilled all the other mitzvot, the Zera Shimshon says. Now how does that fit in? Going back to our original question. How does, when it says the blessings, if you fulfill the Torah and the mitzvot, you'll be good. But when it comes to the negative, it has if twice. How does that make sense? So Zera Shimshon says, when a person learns Torah, it's an option. Not everyone learns Torah. If you learn Torah, then you're obviously going to have the merit to fulfill all the mitzvot. Because Hashem's going to give you the life for it. Hashem's going to consider it as if you fulfilled all the mitzvot. But if you choose not to, it's not automatic. So it's automatic when a person learns Torah, they have the mitzvot. Because Hashem's going to give them the power. He's going to save them from the illness, from the ailment. So that's why there's only one if. But when it comes to the negative, if you don't want to learn Torah, you still might do mitzvot. And if you're not going to do the mitzvot, well, it's all in your bad. You are now the one at fault. However, when a person learns Torah with the right sake, it's connected directly into good health and life, longevity, and being tranquil, and as if a person fulfilled the whole Torah. And this is something we learn from this extra word that is missing, if you want to say. It shows us the clear connection. And when I learned this, I thought of the following connection. And there's a pasuk in Iyov chapter 5, verse 7. It says, Ki Adam la'amal yulad. A person, human beings, born to work hard. We weren't born to sit at the beach, to take a boat ride, to relax, to vacation. No. All of what I just said was in order to reboost and recharge, to work hard. Because that's what we're here on this world to do. We're all here to work hard. Learning Torah is hard work. It means displacing yourself sometimes, giving up on something else that you might want to do, or paying attention. It's so easy to just be passive learning, listening, watching, but to open something and to read it, to write it, to understand it, to explain it, that's real hard work. But that's what we were born to do. And as we learned in Masechet Avot, Lefum Tza'ara Agra, based on the hardship, based on the struggle, is the amount of merit and reward that's given. If it's easy for someone to do something, well, they get reward for it. But if someone else does that exact same thing to the same measure, but it's hard for them, Hashem gives them more reward. Because all He cares about is our willingness to try. When we try, then that's what Hashem wants to see. Only trying. And since Kila Adam Amal Yulad, since we were born to work hard, every single human being is given a dosage of hard work, of flexing, of struggle, of issues. Every single person. However, Chachamim tell us we're able to decide where it goes. So, for example, a person named Yossi. Yossi is given 100,000 hours of hardship, for argument's sake. Okay? Now, in the 120 years of Yossi's life, he gets to choose where it goes. It could go to doctors. It could go to lo aleinu emergencies, financial struggle, physical struggle, physical labor, breaking a leg, dealing with kids, doing like when they're annoying, doing all the hard stuff. It could go towards all that, or a person can deduct from that towards learning Torah, because learning Torah is hardship. It's hard to learn. Now, when you break that hardship, it's sweet, but it's still hard. It's always an effort. It's like someone who goes to the gym. You always sweat. You always feel it. Every time you pick up the weight, your muscle rips a little more. It's not that it's not work, it's work, but it's become sweet already. Compared to the first time that you did it, and it was really hurting, and you were very sore. Now you're sore once in a while, because you made it a habit. That's what we need to try to do. If we all have a certain measure of hardship and struggle in our lives, the gift is that we have the choice where to put it. So put it where it counts, where you'll get merit for it, where it'll be worth something, where once you push through, you'll actually enjoy it. And if you ask me, the greatest takes away from the hardship of other things. Can you imagine all those times, all those extra hours you have to wait in airports, wait in traffic, wait at doctor's offices, feel pain and suffering, all different realms. Imagine if all that can be, I don't know, have a 10% discount, 20% discount, 50% discount. Where's it all going to? It's going to all the time you learn Torah. Sit down with somebody, sit down with a book, listen to a class, involve yourself in that, because that struggle and that work and that merit really saves us. So back to what the Zera Shimshon says, if you follow the chukot, which is referring to Torah, if you follow a life dedicated to Torah, it's automatic when it's for the right motives that you are going to be able to fulfill the mitzvot. Hashem's going to save you. Hashem's going to spare you. He's going to put your time where it really counts. But when it comes to the negative, if this, if that, if, it's going to be negative. As soon as you commit to the first, the second one follows. And this is the first concept I wanted to share from the Zera Shimshon. And then he moves on. He moves on later to where Hashem says that when the Jewish people are not going to keep the laws of Shemitah, which we learned in last week. Remember last week we said, 6 years work the land, 7th year, stop. When the Jewish people will have the temptation to not fulfill the laws of Shemitah, so Hashem is going to exile the Jewish people. This is one of the reasons why the Jewish people were given exile. It's because it's very hard. Can you imagine not working the land at all for a whole year? Let's imagine I tell you for 1 month, don't look at your phone, don't read any emails. It's a major temptation. Yeah, some people have a temptation just 24 hours after Shabbat. Oh, everyone's running to their phones. Can you imagine a year? No emails, no phones, and you got to catch up on it. That's what it means when you leave your ground, you leave your land alone. Leave it desolate for a whole year. So you got to go back. All of the roots and all of the seeds, there's nothing there. You got to start, you got to build your business up from scratch. You had clients on your phone, in your email inbox, which were waiting for stuff that week, that month. You completely disregarded them for 12 months. Do you think you're just going to pick them up? Oh buddy, I'm here. I took 2020 off. I'll see you in 2021. Is that happening? Absolutely not. And therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu saw the temptation, he saw the hardship, and he warned us, make sure to leave the 7th year. That's where your blessing is, that's where your beracha is. But when the Jewish people won't keep it, they'll be sent out to exile. But listen to an amazing pasuk that Zera Shimshon points out on. And this, I think, will give us maybe a new aspect and a beauty to Eretz Yisrael, and even to the Eretz Yisrael that we see nowadays. Pasuk says in chapter 26, verse 34, Az tirtzeh haaretz et shabbatotea. Then the land will be appeased for its Shemitah, for the sabbatical year. Kol yemei hoshama. All the years that it was desolate. Vatem be'eretz oivechem az tishbot haaretz. V'hirtzat et shabbatotea. All those years, you're going to be out of the land of Israel, and the land will now rest. In other words, because you didn't allow the land to rest, Hashem's going to force the land to rest. How? It's going to kick you Jews out of the land. You wanted to work the land 7 years straight, 14 years straight, 21 years straight, non-stop. Hashem will kick you out of the land of Israel, and when you're out of the land of Israel, the land's not going to be worked. It's going to have its rest. It's like a payback. This is a curse, La'alim. This is a curse. Moshe Rabbeinu was warning the Jewish people: make sure keep Shemitah, because if you don't keep Shemitah, Shemitah is going to force itself upon the land. It's going to bring exile to the Jewish people, Galut, and then the land's going to surely get the rest that it needs. The Zera Shimshon says, 1 second over here. When the Jewish people go out in Galut, is it because they just walk out? Or is there maybe another nation which comes and takes over and kicks them out? That's normally the case. So if the Gentile nation comes in the land of Israel, they're not letting the land rest. They're going to plant it. They're going to work it. The land's not really resting.
Right.
You wanted to tell me that the land's going to inflict rest upon itself by kicking out the Jewish people. But now you have other people. Now you have the Goyim that are going to come in to work the land. How's that a rest for the land? It's not resting anymore.
There's no place for a goy.
Why not?
Because it belongs to a goy now.
But the land still needs to rest. It's the land of Israel. You know that the land of outside of Eretz Yisrael, like here, we don't have this idea of working the land for 6 and having the 7th off.
Just in Israel.
Just in Israel. It seems like the land itself needs to rest. How's it resting if the Goyim are going to be there planting and using it? Let us answer over the top. Listen to this. Quotes the Gemara in Masechet Gitin that says, Yanai HaMelech, Jewish king, one time was walking with his troops and he showed them a large mountain. The mountain's name was Tur Malka, the mountain of the king. And he says, do you know, there used to be 60 cities in this area, and each city had the amount of people, the amount of Jews that left Egypt, which is anywhere between 600,000 to 3 million people.
Wow.
Times 60. And to make it better, 3 of the cities were even bigger. They were double that amount of people.
Oh my God.
We're talking a lot, millions and millions and millions of people. So, one guy came up to him, a non-believer. He says, I don't believe there were that amount of people. Look at this mountain. You think this mountain can hold 100 million people? More than that. 180 million people? I don't think so. It's a lie. I never believe you. I don't believe you that it used to have this amount of people. So when this was brought down to the Chachamim, one Chacham, Reb Chanina, said, he just said one word. He said, Eretz Tzevi. It's the land of the deer. And the Zera Shimshon says, what type of answer is that? It's the land of the deer? The guy's asking you a valid question. Could one hill hold 180 million people or not? The land of the deer. The land of the deer. Come on. So he explains this, Zera Shimshon. The deer's skin is very, very strong skin. But it is also one of the only animals. Every animal has this elasticity some way, but the skin of the deer, once a deer is skinned, cannot be put back around the body. It has this amazing characteristic that it's able to expand itself when it's on the body, the flesh of a deer, but when it comes off, it shrinks. And he said, this is exactly Eretz Yisrael. When the Jewish people are following Torah and mitzvot, and they're living on the land of Israel, the land expands. But as soon as the Jewish people start turning away, the land shrinks. What happens when the land shrinks? Jewish people have to be kicked out. There's not enough room for everybody. He says when the Jewish people were living here, yeah, there could be 180 million people on one large mountain. Miraculously, there was room for everybody. But it was all destroyed. All of those 60 cities, they were destroyed. Because they were not following Torah and mitzvot to the T. They were not 100% dedicated. They didn't do everything it said. How does this answer our original question? Our original question of how can we give rest to the land even when the Jewish people are in exile? The Goyim are using it. What happens to the land when the Jews are kicked out? The land shrinks, as Zera Shimshon says. The Goyim are living there, but they're living on 10% of the real estate. Even when the Goyim are going to work the land, it's only going to be 10% that's being worked. And furthermore, it's not going to be the bounty and the juicy fruit that HaKadosh Baruch Hu blesses Eretz Yisrael with. And that's how the land is going to rest. Because it's going to contract itself and not give off the greatest amount of fruit. So you Jews, you better be careful to keep the laws of Shemitah. Because when you keep Shemitah, then the land stays big. And it gives a lot off. But when the Jews have to leave because they're not keeping Shemitah, the land shrinks. And that's going to give a rest to the land. The land's going to demand it for itself. Give me a rest because you're not keeping the rules. And when I thought about, when I learned this from the Zera Shimshon, I thought of, look at Eretz Yisrael today. Baruch Hashem, there is so much Torah that's taking place in the land of Israel. Thousands and thousands of schools, yeshivot, kollels, rabbinic universities. There is so much going on. You walk to one of these areas, anywhere in Jerusalem, in Bnei Brak, in Haifa, even all over the place. Tel Aviv. You go there and you say, how does everyone fit over here? How do so many human beings live in such a small area? You've got two words, Eretz Tzivi. Eretz HaTzivi, the land of the deer. But it's always a test. Hashem wants to see us. Are we going to learn Torah? Are we going to keep the mitzvot? Are we going to follow in His way or not? And that's what makes the greatest difference. That's what makes the difference of the whole Jewish population of the world living in Israel or not. Statistically, half the Jews in the world live in Eretz Yisrael, and half outside. Do the math. Would there be enough room for all the Jews to live in Eretz Yisrael?
Yes.
It would be very tight, but it expands. It will expand. There are many commentaries and many verses in the Nevi'im that say that the whole globe will turn into, so to say, the shape into Eretz Yisrael in the time of Mashiach. That little dot that every single nation wants, everybody wants it, will expand, and it's going to be larger than the United States, than Russia, than Canada. It's going to large and be because how? Because it's like deer skin. It's going to envelop the land only when we're ready for it. The deer skin grows with the deer when the deer is raised. We need to raise ourselves. We need to grow. When we grow in Torah, when we grow in mitzvot, when we follow the way of Hashem, the land of Eretz Yisrael will grow with us. And it will invite us to come live, invite all of Bnei Yisrael to come and live. So we learned two very important lessons tonight from the Zera Shimshon. The first being the power of Torah. When a person dedicates themselves to be busy with Torah, the Torah protects them. The Torah allows them to fulfill mitzvot. It saves a person from sickness. All Torah. Especially when we learn the Zera Shimshon where he promised it. But Hashem promised it Himself. Hashem promised, keep Torah, learn Torah, the rest will fall into place. Even, lo alenu, all of the struggles and the sickness Hashem sends, and the illness. Hashem will wipe that all off. That's the power of Torah. And number two is if we want to be welcome in the land of Israel, we want all of the Jewish people to be in the land of Israel, we have to realize that we need to keep Shemitah. That's just an example. We need to keep Tzedakah. We need to keep Shabbat. We need to keep Kashrut. We need to keep everything. As when we keep everything, the land expands. It welcomes Bnei Israel into the land. It's like in the temple. In the Beit HaMikdash, there was only a certain amount of room in the courtyard. Yet, on Yom Kippur, when the Kohen Gadol would proclaim God's name, and everyone would come down and prostrate themselves. They bow and then they stick out their arms and legs. They're standing up as sardines, shoulder to shoulder. Yet when they lie down, there's enough room for everyone to bow and spread their arms and legs. How does that happen? Eretz HaTzivi. Hashem expands the land of Israel. Hashem has no limitations. He created this world. He has no limitations in our life. Our personal life, our communal life, our Jewish national life, all has the potential to expand. We have to just activate it to expand. We learn Torah, we fulfill mitzvot, we do the right thing, the straight thing in the eyes of Hashem, and Hashem will help us do that. May Hashem bless us in the merit of the Zera Shimshon. This week's Parashat Bechukotai, to be blessed, to learn Torah, to understand Torah, to appreciate the Torah, to be drawn towards it, and let our hardship go revolving around Torah and mitzvot. Let the sweat that we have to sweat of the brow that we have to do, let it go around Torah and mitzvot. It will take off from the hardship of other places and hopefully bring the coming of the Mashiach with the expanding of Eretz Yisrael for all Bnei Yisrael. Amen v'amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Is it
Good?